my name is Rachel and welcome to Vlogmas Day 11, I think. I'm not sure because I haven't opened my calendar this morning, but I think it's 11 anyway. And today I wanted to do some winter recommendations. So these are not Christmas recommendations because a lot of them are depressing, but they are winter recommendations, just books that I have read and really loved and think would be fantastic reads for during winter when it's cold and, you know, when you're inside a lot and it's dark early and you want that like atmospheric-y. I always want to read books that are a little bit sad in winter just because, I don't know, it's dark early and it's cold and it just feels sad. Although it feels festive and great. So I'm going to recommend 5/6. I'm going to say 5 though. Books today that I think would be fantastic to read this winter time. First book is The Gustafsson Atha by Rose Tremaine. I will put all the books here because I don't have any of them, I think they're all in England. But yes, The Gustafsson Atha by Rose Tremaine. This is this is a book. This is a good book. This is a book about, it's set in Switzerland. The reason I picked it up is I picked it up before I moved to Switzerland and I wanted to read a book about Switzerland because I was so excited to come. And so I decided to pick that one up and I'm so glad that I did. It follows a little boy just after the war period and it kind of follows his life up till he's around maybe 50 or 60. It goes quite far through his life. And it follows him meeting another little boy, and this other little boy plays music and beautifully, he's like a pianist and just a phenomenal player. And it's sort of about their friendship and how their lives go throughout the years, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautifully written, the story is wonderful, and it's one of those stories that I want to see more of, and I just think it'd be so perfect to read. Then the next book I wanted to recommend is Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. This is a pretty popular fantasy series, I think. I mean, Terry Goodkind is a #1 best-selling author, and there's been a TV show made of the Wizard's First Rule books, although it wasn't a very good TV show, I wouldn't recommend it. However, yeah, they are very popular. However, I never see anyone talking about them on BookTube, which is weird because they're so brilliant. And I just feel like winter's a good time for reading epic fantasy. And this book is so good. So it's about this guy called Richard Cypher. And he is like a woodsman. And basically he is in the woods one day and he sees a girl run past him, a very beautiful girl in a white dress, and she is being followed by 4 men who are chasing her, and he decides to help her. So in the book, from very early on, you know that he is aware of other worlds within his world. So there are walls that separate different parts of the world, and the part he lives in doesn't have magic, and the magic people can't cross this wall. So you are aware of this from early on, and you're very aware that he's probably going to cross the wall. And yeah, it's just this big epic adventure, and the ending. You know, and sometimes you read a book and you want this like big epic ending, and you don't get it. You fucking get it. Like with this book, you get it. It's an amazing ending, and it's such a good fantasy book. And I wish more people would pick it up because it is just one of my favourites, because my dad always used to read them. So I remember him getting them on audiobook and me listening to him when I was like maybe like 14 or something, and they've stuck with me ever since. Like I've always remembered them and loved them and thought of them as some of my favourite books. So yes, I would recommend that one for winter. So then the next book I wanted to recommend was Housekeeping by Marilynne Robinson. So Marilynne Robinson is quite a popular author, but I hadn't heard of her before. And then when I went to university, I did a tragedy class, and hers was one of the books that we did a lot later in the course. So we did a lot of like Greek tragedy, and we did like Shakespeare tragedy, and then towards the end of the course we did more modern tragedies. So we did like The Long Day's Journey into Night and stuff like that. And then we did Housekeeping. So Housekeeping is about these 2 girls, and they live in like this small, remote kind of town. It's discussed as very self-contained, and it sounds very beautiful. And they have had some like terrible things happen in this place that they live, and they obviously still live there, and so they are looked after by their grandmother, and then I think their grandmother dies, and they are looked after by two of their aunts, and then the aunts leave, and they end up being looked after by a woman called Sylvie, who is another one of their aunts. It's so well written, and it's so beautiful, and the themes that it covers are so good, and it's about family and loneliness and togetherness and like what you want and what a home is and just all these things. And I just remember being so surprised by it and not expecting it to be as fantastic as it was, and I loved it so much, and I think it would be just a perfect thing to read over winter. And then the next one I wanted to recommend, so this is two books actually. So the first book is The Encyclopedia of Early Earth, and the second one is The 100 Nights of Hero, and these are both by Isabel Greenberg, and they both take place in Early Earth. So the Encyclopedia of Early Earth tells the history of Early Earth and how it came to be, and then some of the myths and legends of Early Earth. And then The 100 Nights of Heroes follows two women in Early Earth, and again covers a lot of myths, and it's about this woman who has to tell stories every night to this man in order to not have to sleep with him, based on the 100 Arabian Nights, is it? I think it's 100 Arabian Nights. I think they're my favourite illustrations in a graphic novel that I've read out of all of them. They're so wonderful and so well drawn, and the colour palettes that she uses are phenomenal, and the way that she like incorporates myths into the stories is just, it's really good, and I would definitely recommend it highly. Even if you are not a fan of graphic novels, I think these are books that you should just pick up anyway, because they are for everyone. They are so amazing, and I'm so excited to reread them when I go home. Anyway, we have one last book left, and it is Misery by Stephen King. Going for the ultimate, like, books that are not festive, basically. So I'm recommending this. I would also recommend The Shining, but I feel like I've talked about The Shining so much the last few weeks that I need to pick another one. So I'm picking Misery. So Misery, it basically follows this guy. He's a famous author, and he has a car crash in the snow, and he wakes up and he has been found by a woman who has brought him to her house and is, you know, put him in a bed, put a cast on his leg. She used to be a nurse, and so she says, look, I'm going to help you. I can't really get you to a hospital. There's no service. There's a storm. It's like the height of winter and there's snow everywhere, and she just says, I'll help you here until the snow clears a bit. And then he starts finding out more things about her, that like she is a massive fan of his series that he has wrote. It's a horror, and there are some gory bits, but it is so fantastic. And it's so fantastic in that it's like a character study between two people. So for most of the novel, you only have two characters, and the other characters that come in are very much not really part of the story. They just happen to be mentioned or happen to come in for a few pages just to move the story on. But actually, the story stays with these two characters, and a lot of it runs through internal monologues of our main character, Paul Sheldon. And it's just so fantastic. It's so, so brilliant. And it's a very short novel, but it just packs such a great, great, great story into so small an amount of pages. And I thoroughly enjoyed it when I read it. Thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. And I would definitely recommend it. I don't know why I'd recommend it for winter. I think it's just because it snows. It's the same with The Shining, where I want to reread it because it's snowing. They're all the books that I would recommend highly to read over the winter period. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!